Today we're traveling back to my country, France, to make a very popular cookie, I would say. Do you know what it is? It was actually invented by the Italian in the 8th century, but made very popular in France in the 1500s by Catherine de Medicis. Still no guess? We're making the macaron. Not the macaroons, that's something else. The macaron. This delicious almond shell with a beautiful buttercream in the middle that has been exposed all over the world and appreciated by many. So many flavors, so many take on it. But today we're making an Oreo macaron. I hope my fellow Frenchmen aren't gonna kill me for this. Let's do it. Alright, let's start by making the cookie shells.
Alright, so we're gonna start working on the dry ingredients. And we're going to split the Oreo shell from its cream, if you can call it that cream. Anyway, once we split them, we're gonna put them into a blender and we're gonna pulse them until they become a very fine powder, like you see. And we're then going to add our almond flour as well as our convention sugar. Basically, it is very rough right now and you want to end up with something that is very fine, which is going to help when we fold. The egg white is not going to be as clumpy and it will just do a better job. So make sure you actually scrape it and then blitz it again until you obtain a fine-ish powder, but not thin enough. So we're going to actually put it through the sieve because you want to remove all of the impurities. Again, we are looking for something that is extremely light. And once you're left with all these impurities, you can throw them away or snack on them, which is what I did because it's still delicious. And you're going to carry on with the entire mix as you see. And then we are going to start working on the meringue. So we are going to split our egg whites from the yolks. The way I do it is I put the entire thing into a bowl and I'm actually going to scoop them out. So that way I'm not gonna break the egg on the shell. It's one way you can do it. You can still do it shell to shell, but when you make a meringue, you wanna make sure there's absolutely no yolk in them. It's just a little technique. And also you want to make sure actually they are room temperature. Your whites are going to monte to be fluffy a lot easier. So that's another trick. You're going to put your whites into the mixer with a pinch of salt. And we're going to start mixing them on low. You actually, at the beginning, want to make sure you break the egg with the salt. So probably for a minute or two, you are going to just let them fluff up until they become soft peak. Once we've obtained those soft peak, we are going to stabilize the whites with the sugar. We're going to incorporate it little by little and you can increase the speed as well. And we're going to then move on to the chocolate, which you want to make sure that you could also lower the speed so it doesn't go everywhere. And then we're going to just mix it until it's fully combined. How will you know, you ask, if they are perfectly stable? Well, just put them over your head. If nothing falls, then you're good to go. That's how I do it. Then we're going to move on to the most important part of making macaron, which is the macaronage. No, Emmanuel, not you. So basically we're going to fold the dry and the wet together. So we're going to start with a third of the almond mix and we're going to start to mix it until it looks like wet sand, if I can kind of explain what it looks like. Once we have that incorporated, we're going to add the rest of the almond flour and we're going to mix it until it's completely incorporated. However, you don't want to break the white. So when you mix, you start from the bottom and you go around and you lift it as you see the way I'm doing it now. So incorporate it, but don't break the whites because at the end of the day, you're not going to have some beautiful macarons. The good way to know if you're done is you're going to start mixing and you want to create a figure 8 as you lift the spatula. So if you see right now, it's not quite there. So I'm going to mix it a little bit more. I'm going to try to replicate that figure 8. When you're able to create a figure 8 that does not break like this one, then you know your mix is ready and do not mix more. We are going then to transfer it into a piping bag and also you can check the cabinets and let me know what you think is inside of those cabinets because they just bother me now.
Okay, now let's pipe the macarons.
So for the macaron, I've lined up a piece of parchment paper on top of my tray and I'm going to use some of the mix. You see, so basically the parchment paper is not going to lift up or move as I'm piping them because I mean the piping of the macaron is probably one of the hardest part as well. So what you want to do is actually piping straight up, pushing with your upper hand and using your other hand to kind of like guide it. There's a size, you can definitely do small, medium. I could have done a better job on being regular, but whatever. You could also pre-draw the shape of the macaron to help yourself. Then you're gonna want to tap the tray to remove any air bubble. and we are going to now dry the shell for about 45 to 50 minutes.
All right, so let's look at the cookies. We can actually put a finger across and it should be completely dry. If it's not, let them dry out for another 15-20 minutes, however how long you need, depending on the humidity in your kitchen. And when that step is done, we're gonna actually put them in the oven at 300 degrees Fahrenheit for 17 minutes. So let's do that.
17 minutes later.
All right, while the shells are baking, we're going to work on our cookies and cream, buttercream.
So for the buttercream, I would highly recommend to use an electric mixer. I went by hand because I wanted to prove a point and I regret it. So in a bowl, I've placed all my cookie cream and some temperature butter as well as some vanilla. And I'm gonna mix that until it starts to fluff up. It should take about 3 to 4 minutes. If you use an electric mixer, it will probably take 2. But basically you wanna make sure that it doubles in size almost. Once we're done with the first step, we can actually add the remaining ingredients. We're going to start by adding our confection sugar as well as our Oreo cookie that I blitzed. So I've used the remainder from earlier, as well as the milk. And I'm gonna go back and try not to lose my arm. And we're gonna actually start by mixing it with a spatula until it's kind of combined. And when it's fully combined, I'm gonna switch up my spatula for a whisk. And I'm gonna try to do the exact same process as earlier, which is try to make it as fluffy and airy as possible. So our macaron is gonna be light and delightful. I'll then place the mix in a piping bag, but let's check on our cookie shells.
All right, I just removed the macaron from the oven. I'm gonna let them cool down a little bit right on the parchment paper until I can remove them, and I'm gonna move them onto a grate to cool down completely.
It should take about 10 to 15 minutes before you can actually remove them from the parchment paper. Then they should come out easily. If they do not and they actually stick, it might need that they need a little bit more cooking, so put them back in the oven for 3 to 4 minutes.
All right, our macarons are now ready to be filled with a buttercream. Let's do that.
So I've placed the buttercream in a piping bag with a star tip, and I'm going to add it on top of my shell. So just be wary that the buttercream can be really heavy, so I don't want to like overfill them, but just enough so when we close the sandwich, it's actually enough to be all over the macarons. Once you've piled them all, you're gonna just want to close them together, but you want to be careful to not break the top of the shell. So you're gonna carefully place it on top, and using the palm of your hand, you're gonna just like tap it a little bit so it's nice and cozy, and we have a beautiful macarons. I am so excited to actually finally try them.
Well, look at this beauties. They could definitely look better, but I know the taste is gonna be right on. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know in a comment if you're going to be an Oreo macaron dunker or splitters. Let me know, and I'll see you soon. That's so good.